Okay. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman wa ta'liman innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. So, we were talking about how the angels and the earth loves believers and dhikr, etc. So he says, أخبركم أبو عمرو بن حيوة وأبو بكر الوراق قال أخبرنا يحيى قال حدثنا الحسين قال أخبرنا ابن المبارك قال أخبرنا الأوزاعي عن هارون ابن رياب قال عبد الله مسعود إن الأرض لا تزين أي تتزين the taz dropped للمصلي يمسحها أحدكم فإن كان ماسحها لا محالة فمرة ولأن يدعها خير له من 100 ناقة للنقلة. And has other words there. So he said, when Abdullah Mas'ud, he said the earth, when you pray on it, the ground that you pray on, it what's it called? Makes itself pretty, it bedizens itself for the person praying. فَلَا يَمْسَحَّا أَحَدُكُمْ. So nobody should wipe the earth when you're praying. Don't wipe it, because there's something physically appearing on that. There's a physical thing that you can't see, but there's a physical thing. So don't wipe it away. فَإِنْ كَانَ مَاسِحَهَا لَا مَحَالَ فَمَرَّ. If you really have to wipe it, maybe there's a little stone sticking that you're going to do sujood on, or there's a side of the carpet will hurt your head, or whatever it is, then do it at least just once. وَلَأَنْ يَدَعَهَا خَيْرٌ لَهُ مِنْ 100 نَاقَةٍ لِلنَّقَلَةِ or النقلة. He said, and if you didn't even wipe it at all, just leave the floor as it is, it'd be better than giving 100 she-camels in charity. I'm not quite sure this word here, naqala, and he mentions different versions of the word here, wallahu a'lam. But the point is, there's something physically happening there, right? It's a physical thing, it's something very special. أخبرك, and the mentions his chain all the way up to Ibn Mubarak, and he says, عن إسماعيل بن عياش عن عبد الرحمن بن عدي عن يزيد بن ميسرة قال إن الله تعالى يقول أيها الشاب التارك شهوته لي المبتذل شبابه من أجلي أنت عندي كبعض ملائكتي. I'm not sure how this is related. It seems like a new chapter talking about youth. Yeah, talking about youth. So maybe it's under a new topic. Anyway, so it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to youths who leave off exercising their lust in the haram. So it's very important to understand, we've spoken about this extensively in the D-Femina class. Is everyone familiar with the D-Femina class that I did? Ashar, I know you know about it. Jamal, Zainab, Ayman, Sham.
Yeah, Sheikh, I've heard about it, but I've not joined it.
So have a look at it. It's very useful. It's, that class I think is very, very important. So we talk about in the D-Femina class. So it's there on my playlist. Go to my playlist, look at D-Femina, and just go through it. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's a bit. I would not advise anybody share it with people who are new Muslims or someone who's weak in their iman, because I don't cut any corners and I say things as they are. But it's pretty important. So here it says to the youth who leave off their shahwa, their lust for me. So is it a good idea to not exercise your lust? Right? The answer is no. The answer is you exercise your lust in the halal. Right? So what it means is the youth who is limiting himself to the halal. Right? So is it a good idea to be a young person who's not married? It's not a good idea. It's not a good thing at all. Right? Similarly, it's not a good idea to be a young person who then gets married and then harms people. Right? So for youths, people who are young, we're between a rock and a hard place, right? Between a rock and a hard place. Either you get married young, very young, and you end up doing stupid things and harming people or harming yourself and getting into a lot of trouble, right? Or you don't get married and you get yourself into a lot of trouble, right? But it is not normal and not healthy to be somebody who's reached puberty and who is not sexually active. It's not normal, right? That's not. Who's heard of those? I don't know if it's actually true. It's probably like a anti-Chinese propaganda. That I've heard that in China they get kittens and they have them grow in glass jars so that they're like square shaped. Have you heard of that? It's probably just anti-China propaganda, right? But basically, like people that they'll like obviously total abuse. But you imagine getting an animal that's grown in a glass jar. So then it's like its body is expanding, but then it's like rectangle. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Sheikh, that was a hoax. It was from it was called Bonsai Kitten.
Okay, it's a hoax, right?
Yes.
Okay, well let's do a real thing. They used to do the real thing they used to do in China with the small feet,
Yeah, foot binding.
foot binding, right? So is that good or bad,
it seems bad. It deforms one's
right?
legs, right?
Right? Okay. What about who have you heard of monks and priests and nuns being involved in sexual abuse? Is that something that's known?
Sadly, well
Yeah,
known.
Right? And
yeah,
why is
long.
that the case?
Yeah,
Because it's not natural for somebody who has reached puberty to not be sexually active. It's not natural. That's not good for you. Right? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج. O youth, whichever of you is able to get married, then get married. So you have the emotional ability to get married and the physical ability to get married, then get married. Right? People make things extremely complex, right? And unfortunately, many sisters make it very complex as well, right? Many sisters make it complex. I was talking to somebody the other day. They said, yeah, she asked me for 500,000. The mahar was 500,000, right? It's like, wow, subhanallah, right? 500,000 mahar, right? Whereas it's not reality, right? So you can just, the fact that she's asking that question means that she's immature, that she's not going to be a very good wife because she has no clue about the reality of money, right? So it's obviously a problem. So the point is people should get married. The limiting factor should be emotional maturity, not financial maturity. It's not that difficult. If you can support yourself, you can support a wife, basically. It's not much difference. But many people, they don't want to live a difficult life. They don't want to live they don't want to live in a tiny little apartment somewhere. They don't want to buy secondhand clothes. They don't want to do that kind of thing. They say, no, I'm too special for that. Right. And so then they stay as they are. Right. It's quoted in the Bible, right? You see, here we talk about in this text, quoting the Bible, that in the Bible that it says that any parent who does not marry off his daughter at 12, and then his daughter would go and do something shameful, then the sin is on the parent, right? So now there's shameful things that people can do even in their own house by themselves, right? And so people wouldn't talk about that, and nobody would talk about it, and it wouldn't be an embarrassment. And so it wouldn't change societal values, but in reality, that's something shameful and bad. That shouldn't happen. So the normal, natural thing is as soon as a person is sexually mature, that they should also be emotionally mature. And if they are sexually mature and emotionally mature, then they should get married, right? So if you can't get married at 12, then at 16, you can't get married at 16, then at 20, 24, right? But you should not be somebody who is, sexually mature, but not sexually active because it's not natural. It doesn't help your fitrah. It warps your fitrah. The person is going to become susceptible to all sorts of things, and their fitrah, their nature will be warped and bent, right? It's not a good thing. So when he says al-mubtadil shababahu min ajli, though he gives up his youth for my sake, i.e. using the youth in the haram way. But otherwise, is it something good? Is it something good to not be married, or something good, right? Or is it something bad in having a sexual drive? That's not something bad. That's something natural, right? But rather you channel it in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. أنت عندي كبعض ملائكتي. You are in my eyes like some of my angels. Okay, so we mentioned before that weak hadiths, like this is a weak, super weak hadith, right? Here is a Sahabi or a Tabi, I don't know who he is. Yazid ibn Maysara, not even sure who he is, right? He's some kind of one of the early Muslims, and he's quoting Allah. Where's the source for that? I don't know. So this is all fine as long as we don't use it to change what we know about the deen. So I come along and say it's recommended not to be married based on this. That's wrong, right? So there's no issue. There's nothing wrong with accepting certain kind of information that's somewhat flimsy, right? I was talking to my brother, and he was talking about something. Dr. Kamal, right? Sham. So he was talking about the way that AI does information. AI is continually collecting any and all information, right? And continually adding information, even if it's flimsy, because it's useful, right? So the same thing we do with hadiths. This is, this information is flimsy. It's not the Prophet ﷺ clearly quoting Allah, right? It's like, I don't know what it is, but it helps us understand the general picture and encourages, but we can't use it to define the deen. So when you use something that is flimsy to define the deen, that's a problem. That's a problem. When you use it to support something you already know about the deen, that's totally fine. Right? That's the basic picture there. Okay, so then he says from Masruq, عن مريح ابن مسروق قال ما من شاب يدع لذة الدنيا لهوها ويعمل شبابه لله تعالى إلا أعطاه الله تعالى والذي نفس مريح بيده مثل أجر 72 صديقا. So this is from Murih, of the son of Masruq, one of the great tabi'een. He said, no youth ever leaves off the sweetness of the dunya and its entertainment, right? So i.e. the iPhone. Simple as that. This is what we're talking about on a practical level. I can sit here for 20 minutes going through religious TikTok, or I could read Quran. What should I do? Right? So if you're taking notes on your religious TikTok, that's great. Like there's a lecture on TikTok and you're taking notes and this is knowledge, fine. But people don't do that, do they? It's just entertainment in a different color. Right? I remember myself, a 17-year-old teenager. I didn't have a television. I didn't watch TV, didn't have internet. I remember like listening to cassettes, right? Proper old school. Here's a sheikh giving this talk, and it's just entertainment. It's just interesting. Like I don't have anything else to do, so I'm just gonna listen to it. You know? That's not, you see, even if it's religious, it's not religious. Religious means I'm sitting here like, yeah, Allah, I'm messed up. I need to change. How can I change? That's religion. Otherwise, it's not religion. It's like, yeah, Allah, I really want to change. What can I do? As opposed to, oh, cool, the guy has a funny accent, or he's entertaining, or he is funny. That's not deen, right? So leaving ladhat ad-dunya wa lahwiha, turning your phone off. Simple as that, right? Somebody can write a whole spiritual treatise on the spiritual the spiritual benefits of not having a phone, right? I went 1 week without a phone, and this is what happened to me, right? Spiritual insights of not having a phone, right? So the screen is a big distraction, and it's a snare as well to the haram, right? Anybody who doesn't, if you don't have image block on, you're going to be snared by haram images time and time again, right? And even as a female, right? Less so, but even as a female, and even as a female, right? Seeing an inappropriate image of a female, what does it do to you as a female? It tells you my value is being sexually attractive and showing my body to people. So even for a female, That's taking away from your iman. Keep telling you the value of your iman. Your value is in being sexually attractive. That's what's your value. So that's warping your iman. So in general, the screen is there for work. That's what it's for. Like, go there to work. Don't go there for study. I don't advise anybody to study on Zoom. Only study on Zoom if you don't have another choice, right? You have nobody else to study with. Go. But otherwise, the screen is not a good place, right? The screen, the internet, the smartphone is not a good place to be at all, right? So when you say that a youth who leaves off the sweetness of the dunya and its entertainment, i.e., turn your phone off. وَيَعْمَلُ or يُعْمِلُ شَبَابَهُ لِلَّهِ, and he employs his youth and strength for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So fast while you can. Pray at night while you can. Memorize Quran while you can, right? The other day I was with somebody and he's had the first baby. Alhamdulillah, he's a hafiz. So look at the difference between two people. He memorized the Quran, he has a baby, he's up at 2 a.m. trying to put the baby back to sleep for 2 hours. It counts as his tahajjud. Fantastic. He's walking around the house carrying this baby, reciting Quran. Whereas you're there like, oh my God, right? How am I supposed to pray tahajjud? I've been up all night. How am I supposed to get up? I can't even do these things, right? So do things while you can, right? And cut out things that you don't need to do, right? So the problem with being young, is there's so much you can do. And so you end up doing many, many things that you shouldn't do, many, many things that you can do, but are suboptimal. So you have to sell every single moment you have for the maximum profit. That means you don't do this and you do this. And there's lots of don't do's, because otherwise, if you just spread yourself, right? There's lots of things you just waste your time doing. Like, there are very good things. For example, I went to this lecture. I didn't even need to go to the lecture. I spent 2 hours listening to Mufti Mink, but I didn't need to, right? If you don't need to be in this lecture, don't be in this lecture. So I actually have to do something important. Go and do it. We're not here to be entertained. We're not here to be inspired. We're here to change. That means 99% hand, 1% hearing things. Like, okay, I have to do this, this, and this. Okay, let me go and do it. Next, okay, come back, listen. Okay, I have to do this, this, and this, right? So we have to, our knowledge is our salt, and our amal, applying the knowledge, is our dough. The flour. والذي نفس مريح بيده مثل أجل 72 صديقا. This person who gives up, who employs his youth and strength for the sake of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him the reward of 72 صديقين, of the great awliya of Allah. And he says, قال says أخبرني أيضا يعني إسماعيل بن عياش عن ضمضم بن زرعة الحضرمي عن شريح بن عبيد الله بن عتبة بن عبد السلمي وكان من أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الشباب المؤمن لو يقسم على الله لأبره. He says the youth who is a believer, if were he to swear by Allah that something would happen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make sure that thing happened. I.e., somebody who is young and does what is right and fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the number one thing for the youth then is take away the phone. Because I don't believe any teenager can use a phone responsibly. I don't believe it.
You can ask a question.
Bismillah, go ahead.
I don't know if you heard about this, but Australia is implementing a social media ban for everyone under the age of 16 starting next week.
Wow.
To my knowledge, it's the only country in the world that has banned social media for children. And I guess my question for you is, this is a class obviously on knowledge, but to your knowledge, is that the approach that perhaps Muslim countries should take?
100%. So go and look at very conservative countries, Muslim countries. How are they destroyed by TV? Right? So it's the personal obligation and the communal obligation to get rubbish off the screen, right? So again, this might be anti-China, what's it called? Anti-China propaganda, but they see, TikTok in China versus TikTok in the United States, right? It's like it's not the same thing. So it's the responsibility of the country to make people see noble and useful things, education, whatever it is, right? As opposed to stupid stuff, right? So you have these people, it's like, here's a household where these women are so conservative, they would never take off their niqab, even if they had to pray in public. And yet they're watching everything that we watch. And they've seen everything we've seen, you know? So like you go to the Kuwait today and be like, here's these people dressed in black, top to toe, and very conservative this, but it's like they watch all these things. So then they're not conservative at all. And their values are like anything else. I'm sure there's more pornography in those countries than anywhere else, and prostitution and everything. And they would love it and they were happy about it. So how did that happen? Through the screen. Simple as that. And so it's not I have to be a bit careful. You can't like come down as like so again, I'm not a politician, so I can't it's very difficult to how hard you're going to come down on people, but it's a lot of stupid things. So and so for me like a smartphone is dangerous for me. And like I'm almost 40, right? I do not have ADHD. I do not have some kind of like addictive thing, but it's an addiction. I notice myself, oh, why did you open it? Right? So I don't think, I'm scared. I fear for my own deen in front of a screen, right? In front of the screen. So what about a teenager? Like I don't know. I don't know. Like, is there something wrong with me? Am I like a very bad person? I don't think I'm a very bad person. I think I'm a kind of a normal person, right? As normal as you can imagine. I just don't think it's a very safe place at all. I don't think the screen is a very safe place at all. I think that's just reality. It's like people are just frank. You're like, it's not a safe place to be. So you just give it to the youth, be like, oh, there we go, have this. It's like, I don't think, can you say, I remember I was recently at a school in Malaysia and they're talking about, the iPhones and they were saying, we give it to the kids, right? We do take it away sometimes, but we want them to work on their own healthy balance. I don't think they're able to do that, honestly. I understand the idea. That's great. It'd be fantastic, right? If your teenager could, you know, tire themselves out using the screen and say, you know what, I don't want to do that. It would be nice if, for example, a kid could like do drugs and be like, no, that's actually really bad. I don't want to do that. But that's not really how it works. It's not really how it works. Like, here's a gun, like you play with it, and you find out what the rules are. That'd be fantastic, right? But the problem is people die in the process, right? That's the reality of it. Like it's, what did the Prophet ﷺ say? The Prophet ﷺ said, no man is ever alone with a woman except the third person, the shaitan, right? So I think many people would look at that and think that's kind of extreme, like what, a man and a woman can't be alone in a room because otherwise they're going to commit zina. Like this kind of sounds like super like, you know, you have like some kind of like problem. Like you think everyone's like cheating on everybody and like, but that's actually the Prophet ﷺ told us that, and that's because it's the nature of things. So I don't think it's a, the way that adverts work, the way that YouTube works, the way the screen is, the images that come up, I don't think it's a safe place, honestly. And so when you say here kids, use social media at your discretion, you look at these things at your discretion. I don't think it's a reasonable thing to say. It's not a, you don't have a fighting chance. You know what I'm saying? That's my estimation. Again, I'm not a politician and I've been a parent for what, 10 years. So, maybe you ask me in 10 years, I might have a different opinion. Wallahu alam, right? And I do know some people have other opinions, but I'm just saying it doesn't look very safe. That's all.
Sheikh,
Go ahead.
can I say something?
Bismillah.
Yeah, actually, I've seen a small video in which they did a social experiment with kids, I think so, around the age of 8 to 14 or something. Not exactly teenagers. They let them 10, 15 of these kids into a house and they said, see, come on, you can do whatever you want, keep the house clean, etc. But actually, within a few days, They had to stop the experiment because they destroyed the house beyond repair, actually, because
Yeah.
they
So that's
couldn't
it's called
control them.
you know the book Lord of the Flies, Azhar?
Heard of it, never read
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So that's like that. So it's like these kids on an island, they end up killing each other. So that's how it is.
I
So
was
I don't
thinking
think I don't think it's reasonable, you know? Like it's funny, I was a bit 6 months in Malaysia and with like Eastern, even the Chinese, like the Eastern hayat, like the modesty. And there's this on the plane coming from Taiwan to SF SFO to San Francisco, and there's this American lady. I don't know how old she is, maybe 20, 25, who knows? And on her bag, it says like something something around. What is it? Something something around and find out, right? So I swear word, right? And it's like subhanallah, she just hit the nail on the head, right? Like that's what it is. Like you go around do stupid stuff and then harm yourself and then find out that that was a stupid thing to do. So I don't think it's really fair, you know? I personally don't think it's not a fair thing. So 100%, you know, I'm not a Muslim ruler. I would not want to be a Muslim ruler. It's a very difficult thing to do, and you can't always do what is right because sometimes the dosage is just too high, you know? But in principle, it is the obligation of the Muslim ruler to ban bad media, like you would ban pornography and you ban most films and you ban this and you ban this and you ban that and you promote healthy things, right? الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر. Right? Those who, when we put them in control, here you are, you're in control now. What do? They establish the prayer and they have zakat given and they command the right and forbid the wrong. They don't just say, oh, guys, you work it out. Because people don't work it out. People like, it does go pretty bad. This phrase in Farsi, they call it Salt Musulman. Salt Musulman is like people who are only decent by virtue of force. Meaning, like, if you didn't force them to be decent, they would do like barbaric, shameful things, right? And so, that's the nature of, I believe, of people. It's not, So you need to have, So basically, the politics, again, Sham would know better than me, usually work is barbaric people. They have a monopoly over barbarism, and they stop other people from being barbaric, right? So they just limit it. Like, let me be barbaric. I'll go and kill people and do horrible things. But you guys don't do that because it wouldn't work, right? So, the ideal situation is noble people stop barbaric people from being barbarians. But at the very least is you have, barbaric people stopping other people from being barbaric. But people will just normally like fall into that, just doing crazy things. Wallahu alam. That's my take on things. Does that make sense, Sham?
yes, thank you for a very detailed answer.
Perfect. Okay, let's go next hadith. It says أخبر okay. So it says from Abu Mubarak قال أخبر from عائشة المعافري أنه سمع عقبة بن عامر يقول يعجب ربنا تعالى للشاب ليست له الصبوة. Right? Our Lord marvels at a young person who does not have sabwa, who is not in romance. Right? So is romance haram?
Absolutely not.
Outside the wedlock,
No, it's not.
outside the wedlock,
Go ahead, Ashar.
outside the wedlock, it's not permissible.
Wait,
So do you choose whether you fall in love with somebody?
And perhaps the definition of romance is different over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
here's this kid who is 12, okay? And there's this girl, his cousin, there's a girl that he goes to school with, and he just like whenever he sees her, he feels really weird. Is that haram?
and that's not under one's control. Yeah.
It's not mono
Understood.
control, right? So we're not talking about that. right? We're not talking about that. But the issue is then this person follows that, right? So you now follow that up. Aha, well, now we have a problem. A thought comes to your mind, you followed it up. Now it's a problem, right? So you're not responsible for thoughts that come into your head, right? The inclinations that you have, but you are responsible for entertaining them and building on them, right? And so someone's like, oh, I'm married, but I'm having an emotional affair with somebody. What should I do? It's like, well, you're probably responsible for 95% of that, right? So a thought came to your head, okay, but then you like followed it up and followed it up and followed it, or you made choices like, why are you continually choosing to work with this person or following up the conversation? You're following with this, keep a distance, right? So the point is, there's something that is good and beautiful and noble, right? Okay. It seems now we're going to another topic on this, honestly, as well. So I don't see. That's what I'd like to see. Like I think the way that this thing is broken down, it seems like somewhat odd. So I don't quite. Anyway, so it says next chapter. It says, or the next topic seems to be about unity of the ummah. It said عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال المؤمن للمؤمن كالبنيان يشد بعضه بعضا وأدخل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أصابعه بعضها في بعض. Right, he said the believer and the other believer is like an edifice, like a building. They strengthen one another. Right, they strengthen one another. And he put his fingers, he intertwined his fingers. Right, so right, so this is the concept of fabrics or buildings. Like the brick itself could be smashed to pieces with it's not that difficult, but the building is pretty tough, right? So the point is we support one another, backing each other up, etc. So so again, the phone, right? There's one kid against the internet. He's not going to survive, is he? So there's a kid in his room with an iPhone. It's not fair, right? It's not a fair competition, right? It's like the one kid versus like a million, 50 million, 100 million, a billion shayateen. Like it's not a fighting chance, as opposed to, oh, we're going to sit with my son and research something online, and we're going to do it like this, right? You want to go TikTok? Let's do it together. You want to watch a film? Let's do it together. Oh, do you think this is a good film to watch? No, I don't think. I'm a bit embarrassed watching this film with my dad. So yeah, well, they're probably not that good then, is it? Right? So this is a kind of, again, I'm not an expert dad, but it makes sense to me. You want to do something, let's do it. Let's do it together, right? Let's go and do this thing together. You want to listen to, I don't know, who's the famous hip hop people today, Sham? Who would your students be listening to today?
Sorry, I'm also cooking. I mean, there's Kendrick Lamar is a good example.
Okay, so your son's into him. He's like, okay, let's sit and listen. And they say, what do you think, Dad? What do you think, Mom? It's like, oh yeah, it's pretty bad, right? You're like, what is the person saying, right? So this is helping our kids out. Well, don't leave them alone with an iPhone or a screen by themselves. They watch something, watch it together. We'll watch it together. If there's some bad things, skip those bad things, perhaps. That's the kind of as worst as you can get. It's like, do you think this is a healthy thing to watch? I think it's a good thing to watch. No, it's not. Right? Stopping and discussing swear words. That's quite good parenting. Like, what does that word mean? Why are you saying that? Why is he saying that word? What does it mean? Right? And processing things properly, like, yeah, and seeing things as they are. I think it's a quite useful thing. This is helping each other out. Right? And he mentions that he says, change translation, he says, خرج عمار بن ياسر إلى أصحابه وهم ينتظرونه فقالوا أبطأت علينا أيها الأمير. So Ammar ibn Yasir, he came out and they were waiting for him and they said, you're late, oh, leader. قال أما إني سأحدثكم حديثا. I'll tell you something. كان أخلكم ممن كان قبلكم وهو موسى عليه السلام. There was a brother of yours, Sayyidina Musa عليه السلام. قال يا ربي, he said, oh my Lord, أخبرني بأحب خلقك إليك. Tell me about of those who are most beloved to you. قال لما, say why. قال لأحبه لك, so that I may love him for your sake. قال سأحدثك رجل في طرف من الأرض يعبدني ويسمع بي أخا له في طرف الأرض الأخرى لا يعرفه، فإن أصابته مصيبة فكأنما أصابته، وإن شاكته شوكة فكأنما شاكته، لا يحبه إلا لي، فذلك أحب خلقي إلي. ثم قال موسى يا ربي So it mentioned anyway, so he said, so Ammar ibn Yasir, he came out to his companions and they said, you were late, etc. He said, I'll tell you something. He said, there was a brother of yours, from a bygone brother of yours, i.e. Musa alayhi salam. And he said, oh Lord, tell me of the most beloved of creation to you. And he said, why? He said, so that I may love him for your sake. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I will tell you, a man on one side of the planet who's worshipping me, and he hears of a brother of his on the other side of the earth, who he doesn't even know, meaning he knows about him, but he doesn't know him. He said, were that person on the other side of the planet to be afflicted by something, it was as if it afflicted him. And if so much as a thorn went into his finger, it would be as if he felt it. لا يحبه إلا لي. He only loves him for my sake. فَذَلِكَ أَحَبُّ خَلْقِي إِلَيَّ. That is the most beloved of my creation to me. Right? So the people who are have genuine care and concern for other people. Right? This is the believer. Right? So we have to be on the madhab of who's the man in the Green Mile? Can't remember his name. Jimmy? No. Jim? He feels people's pain. Forget his name. Anyway, Sham, I know you're in the middle of cooking, but anyway, in the Green Mile, there's this man who basically feels other people's pain. It's quite a difficult situation to be in because you feel other people's pain, right? And basically being an empath, right?
Oh, I think that's John.
John? Okay. Right. So basically being a balanced empath, right? So when does it become unbearable to become an empath is when you don't have your feet on the ground. You can't channel the pain to something. But if you're connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can channel that pain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's fine. And that doesn't go anywhere, right? So you have this place for things to go, right? Otherwise, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to like feel everybody else's pain and things like that, right? But the opposite then is a psychopath. Like, I really don't care, right? Like when people suffer, like it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't really see it. ثم قال موسى said يا ربي خلقت خلقا فجعلتهم في النار فأوحى الله إليه أن يا موسى ازرع زرعا فزرعه وسقاه وقام عليه حتى حصده وداسه فقال له ما فعل زرعك يا موسى قال قد رفعته قال فما تركت منه قال ما لا خير فيه قال فإني لا أدخل النار إلا من لا خير فيه. So then the second part is not part of that hadith, but part of that point. But he says, so then Sayyidina Musa says to Allah, oh Allah, you created people and then you sent them to hellfire. Why did you do that? Like, why do you create people knowing they're going to go to hellfire? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa, he said, plant some seeds. So he planted some seeds and he watered them and he let them grow and he harvested them. And dasahu, and then he stepped on them. I guess he, ground them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Sayyidina Musa after he had planted his seeds and watered them and looked after them and then harvested them, he says, what happened to your seeds? So, well, I've harvested it now. He says, what have you left? Right? The patch, what have you left? I said, oh, I just left some things that there's no good in, like, things that didn't really grow. There's no good in it. I can't do anything with it. قال فإني لا أدخل النار إلا من لا خير فيه. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says similarly, right? I do not send to hell anybody except those there's no good in. Right? Just like you planted these seeds and you watered them, and some of them, nothing came out of any of it. Right? And so there's no good in it. Similarly, that's what I do. Those there's no good in them whatsoever, that's the people I send to hell. I don't send people to hell who there's good in. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, قال إنما يصفي لك ود أخيك ثلثا or ثلاثا إذا لقيته أن تبدأه بالسلام وأن تدعوه بأحب أسمائه إليه وأن توسع له في المجلس. It says, how can you make your love for your brother and be fair to your brother in three ways? He said, when you meet him, say assalamu alaikum to him and refer to him in his nicest possible name, right? Speak to him in a way that he would like. Not, hey, idiot, right? That's not a nice phrase, is it? Or whatever, whatever word that you might use. People have nice names. Likes to be called something, right? وَأَن تُوَسِّعَ لَهُ فِي الْمَجْلِسِ, and that you give him space to hear somewhere to sit down. Okay, and he's going on. الجليس الصدق وغير ذلك, good friends and bad friends. So he mentions his whole chain of transmission back to Abdullah Mubarak. From Ibn Abbas, قال أحب لله وأبغض لله وعادي في الله ووالي في الله فإنه لا تنال ولاية الله إلا بذاك. He said, love for the sake of Allah. This is Ibn Abbas. And hate for the sake of Allah. And make enemies for the sake of Allah. And team up with people for the sake of Allah. Because this is the only way you can reach unto the protection and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا يجد رجل طعم الإيمان عفوا وإن كثرت صلاته وصيامه حتى يكون كذلك. He said, a man will not taste the sweetness of faith, even if he prays and fasts a lot, until he's like that. وقد صارت مواخاه الناس اليوم في أمر الدنيا. He says, today, people are buddies for the sake of the dunya. وَذَلِكَ لَا يُجْزِئُ عَنْ أَهْلِهِ شَيْئًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. He said that doesn't mean anything on Judgment Day, right? So this is the beautiful thing about being religious people, is that you may have nothing in common, right? So let's say, for example, Sham and I, there's many things we have in common, right? Like as in the dunya, we can have a conversation and it's kind of cool, right? So we have something in common. But that's dunya. How do you know that you have a purely ukhrawi connection? Is that there's that person from a totally different culture. You can hardly speak to them, right? I know people for like that. It's like I couldn't work with them, and it's very difficult even to have a conversation. Like we continually misunderstand each other. But on a higher spiritual level, very close. Right? That's what it is, right? And so that's what it is. And so that's quite rare, right? It's rare to have that. But you have these connections. You might have a connection with somebody in the masjid like that. There's an old man in the masjid, you can't even speak to him. You don't speak the same language. But you have this spiritual connection, right? You're both there, both struggling with the same things, and this is a spiritual connection. Can you have that with your spouse? You can have a spiritual connection with your spouse, 100%, right? But it doesn't have to be like that, you know? Say, for example, you're married to a Christian woman, right? We're actually not on the same page at all religiously. So the connection is just worldly, right? We have children together, right? That's about it. But you're not really spiritually on the same page at all, right? That's why it's very important, right? The Prophet said, "Alayka bi dhat deen," marry a religious woman. So you be religious and make sure you marry a religious person, right? And find each other in Allah, right? Like that's like, that's high level marriage counseling, right? Low level marriage counseling, communication things, expectations, etc. Right? But high level is like, I'll go my way, you go your way, and we meet each other in Allah, right? Because that's where, if you're both going the same direction, then you'll find each other there anyway, and it will be a very, very deep and meaningful relationship, right? But if you're not both going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not going to be very deep. It's going to be, right, buddies for the sake of the dunya. Khair, inshallah, we'll stop here. Okay, actually, this is a nice quote here. So this is from one of the Ansar. He said, أحب الناس على قدر تقواهم. Love people based on how much taqwa they have. وأعلم أن القراءة لا تصلح إلا بزهد. He says, reciting Quran means nothing unless you're detached from the dunya. Right? و, و إلا وذل عند الطاعة. وظل عند الطاعة واستصعب عند المعصية. When you do good deeds, feel like you're dirt. And when you're about to do something haram, fight as hard as you can. Right? واغبط الأحياء بما تربط به الأموات. He says, be jealous of living people based on what you would be jealous of dead people. So what do dead people have? Do they have good looks? No. Do they have nice cars? No. Are they famous? No. Are they this? Are they that? Are they influential? No. They don't have anything. They're dead. Okay. What did they leave with? Are they left with good character, good deeds, right? So, okay, that's what you should. So when you look at people and say, "Oh man, I wish I was like so and so," meaning I wish I had the things that he's taken to the grave, but not the things that, oh my God, she's so pretty, and she's like 5 years older than me. How is it possible? You know, everything works out for her. Nothing works out for me. How did he get his master's at 25? You know? And it's like, well, is he going to take the masters to the grave? Right? Yes, he is, because he did it for the sake of Allah. Okay, then that's where you have ghibta. That's where you're like, oh man, I wish I was like him. I wish I had the things that they had, right? I wish I had a strong niyyah. I wish I had the patience that he has. I wish I had the akhlaq that she has, right? These are the things that we should look up to. Things that dead people have, not people who are alive. Because, so the things that you can take to the grave, right? But this is very beautiful. Dhilla and ta'a wastas'ib in al-ma'siyah, right? Be very humble and be like as lowly as the earth when you do good deeds. And be very hard to be unmalleable when it comes to sin, i.e. the sin cannot get hold of you very easily, right? And revere people based on how much taqwa they have. Okay, خير إن شاء الله. We'll stop here. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.